Hello learners, welcome to the session on basics of fish and egg. This is a part of your MOOC course on food fundamentals and chemistry. In earlier lectures, you have learned about the foods from the plant origin and you have also discussed one of the animal origin food, that is meat. So today we are going to discuss about another two important foods from animal origins, and these are fish and egg. So you know, as an animal protein source, this fish and egg are very rich in good quality proteins, vitamins, minerals and fats, and these are superior quality proteins source like the meat. So you know that there are so many delicious fish products and egg products are available in the market. So to name a few fish products like sausage, nuggets, fingers, cutlet, pickle, etc., and the egg products like omelets, boiled egg, poached egg, scrambled egg, cakes, pudding, custard, etc., which are in demand by the consumers. But these two products, fish and egg, these two are perishable. So they need proper handling, processing and storage. So today our focus will be on the discussion of the basics of these two important animal origin food, that is fish and egg. And I hope that after going through this lecture, you will learn about the production status of fish and eggs in India, the classification of fish, the common aquaculture practices, the composition and nutritive value of fish and egg, freshness indicators of fish, quality indicators of egg, deterioration or spoilage of fish and egg, processing and preservation of fish and egg, and some important fish products and egg products. So let's begin with the production status of fish and egg in India. Where do we stand in the production of fish and egg? So first, let's see the fish production status. India is the third largest fish producing and second largest aquaculture nation in the world. Indian fisheries has witnessed a paradigm shift from marine to dominated fisheries to inland fisheries, which contribute now almost 70% of the total fish production. And within inland fisheries, now there is a shift from capture-based fisheries to culture-based fisheries. So fish production in 2021-22 was almost 16.24 million tons, which contributed 8% of total global fish production. And marine fish production was around 4.12 million tons, and the aquaculture fish production was around 12.12 million tons. If you see the statistics of the egg production in India, the total egg production was 138.38 billions in numbers during 2022 and 23. India ranks third in the world in egg production. Egg production has been increased by 6.77% from the previous year, that is 2021-22. And the current per capita availability of egg is 101 eggs per year. So I'll discuss first the basics of the fish, then we'll come to the basics of the eggs. So let's see, what do we mean by fish? Generally, fish is the cold-blooded aquatic vertebrates with gills. So those are normally the fin fish. For example, the pomfret, tuna, mackerel, carp, cod, sardine, salmon, tilapia, etc. But besides these fin fish, the shellfish are also included in the fish category, and these includes the crustaceans and the mollusks like the prawn, shrimp, crab, squid, clams, oyster, etc. Fish can also be classified depending on the skeletal structure. If it is made of bone, then it is bony fish like the pomfret, tuna, mackerel, carp, cod, sardine, salmon, tilapia, and it can also be cartilaginous fish like the shark and rays. So, while discussing the production status of fish in India, I mentioned that nowadays we are getting more fish from the aquaculture sector. So, what do we mean by aquaculture? It is the controlled farming of fin fish and shellfish in freshwater, brackish water or estuary. And the common species in India like carps, tilapias, catfish, milkfish, mullets, freshwater shrimp, clams, oysters, prawns, etc. And there are 5 different types of aquaculture practices which are common in India, like the pond culture, the pen culture, the cage culture, where the fish are reared in the fixed or floating enclosures in open water bodies. Then another group is integrated fish farming, where fish is grown in combination with other animal has been like the pig or the duck or chicken, or fish is grown with the agriculture crops like rice or vegetables. So there actually the poultry or the pig manure fertilize the fish pond, and the vegetable wastes can also be fed to the fish. Another category of aquaculture is the coastal aquaculture, which is when the fish is farmed in coastal areas, that is in estuaries and bays. So now we know the sources of fish we get in India. Now we'll see what are the chemical composition of different types of fish. So the composition varies with depending on the species of the fish, age, sex, season and environment of catching the fish, etc. If you see the table of chemical composition of fish, you would see that the water percentage, the protein percentage, fat percentage varies from fatty fish to lean fish to mollusks. In fatty fish, fat percentage is almost 10%, even that can even be more than 10%, protein is to 20% and water is less, it is around 69%. Whether in case of lean fish, the water percentage is around 82% and the fat is only 0.5%. In all these fish group, you can see that the mineral is almost around 1.3 to 1.6% and carbohydrate content is very less, it is less than 0.5%. Besides this, fish also contain some vitamins. If you consider only the edible part of the fish, that is the fish meat, you will see that the fish meat contains 66 to 84% of water, 15 to 24% of protein, 0.1 to 22% of lipids, 1 to 3% carbohydrates, 0.8 to 2% minerals. If you see the different protein present in fish, you will see that the proteins are almost like that of meat. The meat we get from the food animals muscle and fish meat we get from the fish muscles. So the proteins are similar in nature. Fish proteins are mainly myofibrillar proteins that includes actin, myosin, troponin, actinin, etc. Another group is sarcoplasmic proteins that includes myoglobin, enzymes, and the third category is the stromal proteins, which includes collagen, elastin, reticulin, etc. Exactly like the meat. When you have the idea of the chemical composition of fish, so you can guess the nutritive value of fish. So you know how much protein and fats, vitamins, minerals are present in fish. If you calculate the nutritive value, if you calculate the energy content of fish, you will see that depending upon the protein and fat quantity, the energy content also varies from fish to fish. Fatty fish provides approximately 170 kilocalorie energy and lean fish gives 85 to 95 kilocalorie per 100 gram. Fish are rich in high quality protein, so it provides all the essential amino acids we need, especially lysine and methionine. And the biological value of fish is also high, it is around 80. If you see the beneficial effect of dietary fish, that is attributed to fatty acid composition. So fish contains 40% saturated fatty acids, 25% monounsaturated fatty acids, 25% omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids and 10% omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. That means fish contains very good amount of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids which are very good for cardiac health. Fish is also rich in calcium, iodine, selenium, fluoride, iron, zinc, etc. And the bioavailability of this iron and zinc which is present in fish is higher than that of the plant food. Fish also contains significant amounts of vitamins, especially the B vitamins, the vitamin B12, niacin, and fatty fish also contains fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, especially it is present in the fish liver oil. So we know that fish is very highly nutritive and delicious, but we should select those fish for consumption which are fresh. So how can you check the freshness of the fish? When you go to market to buy fish, you can also check the freshness. The freshness indicators are like for fin fish, you can check the eyes or the gills. Eyes should be full, not sunken. It should be bright and clear looking. Gills should be bright red. Scales cling tightly to skin. Fins should feel stiff. Flesh should be firm and elastic. And the odor of the fish should be fresh fish-like odor without any signs of decomposition. When you go to buy the shellfish, you can check, for example, the clams or the oysters. So you can check whether two shells are tightly clamped together or not. That is the indication of the freshness of the shellfish. So what will happen if we cannot process, handle, preserve, store the fish properly during different stages? Will we be able to maintain the freshness of the fish? What are the deteriorative changes that can happen in the fish during the fish? You know, fish is highly perishable and spoilage occurs due to mainly three causes. First one is autolytic or enzymatic spoilage, that is caused by the autolytic fish enzymes. Firstly, there will be glycolysis of the glycogen which is present in the muscle, so there will be lactic acid production and it will decrease the pH of the fish, which will ultimately allow the microbial growth. Secondly, there will also be breakdown of the nucleotides like the ATP. ATP will break down to ADP, IMP and finally to hypoxanthine, which makes fish insipid. Thirdly, the digestive enzymes which are present in the fish gut, that will produce carbon dioxide and hydrogen, which will cause the belly bursting. Second reason of the deterioration in fish is the oxidative rancidity that occurs due to autooxidation and lipid hydrolysis of the unsaturated fatty acids which are present in the fish, and this results in rancid off odors and discoloration. And third and most important spoilage, that is due to the microbial spoilage. So microbial spoilage is caused by the bacteria present on surface slime and fish guts. So when the fish is alive, then these are present but they don't grow rapidly. But when the fish is dead, the bacteria multiplies so rapidly it spoils the fish. Bacterial enzymes act on phospholipids and choline and produces trimethylamine, which causes fishy off odor. Besides this, microbes also produce various deteriorative changes like the production of ammonia, indole, histamine, volatile sulfur compounds, etc., which makes the fish spoiled. So now we'll see how we can protect the fish from all these kind of deteriorative changes or the spoilage. Is it practically possible at all? At least we can try to slow down these deteriorative changes. We can preserve the food. So we'll see the guidelines for the seafood processing and preservation to ensure the wholesome and hygienic quality of fish. Quality of fish depends on care and handling of the catch. Careful handling after harvest can slow the degradation process so that a wholesome and safe product reaches the consumers. So first thing we have to remember that we have to remove from the fish body all those components which are going to spoil the fish. So if we first adopt the steps for bleeding, if it is done immediately after harvest, that will help to extend the shelf life. Then gutting is done to remove the digestive enzymes and the bacteria present in the guts. Then fish should be washed with cold water, which helps to remove the surface slime and the bacteria. Then very important point is the icing of the fish. Icing can be done using the crushed ice or the refrigerated seawater immediately after the harvest for chilling to 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. If we can lower down the temperature of the fish, then that will help to prevent the microbial spoilage or the chemical spoilage, and that will especially it is required in the tropical climate area. So to prevent the spoilage, icing is very important. Then the storage. Fish are best stored in ice in shallow trays or boxes. If you are planning for long-term storage of fish, then we should follow the method of freezing. That is the best method of preserving fish. So in commercial fishing, what happens? Fish are processed and frozen on board to less than minus 20 degrees centigrade. Otherwise, harvested fish are transported to processing plants in crushed ice or in refrigerated vehicles. So besides this chilling and freezing, we can also follow other methods of preservation of fish, which include drying, salting, smoking, curing, canning, fermentation, etc. And in commercial production of fish, if we implement the principles of HACCP, that is hazard analysis and critical control point throughout the fish processing chain, that will ensure the hygienic, wholesome and safe quality of fish and fish products. Now I will tell you about some of the popular fish products. Mostly in market, what we see, the fish is marketed as fresh or in frozen form. Besides this, there are also various further processed delicious products which are available in the market. For example, cured fish. Cured fish may be in the form of salted, smoked or pickled fish. Salted fish is prepared by using either dry salting or brine. Smoked fish is made from the mildly salted fish followed by smoking. You can also have pickled fish, which is a cured product, and where the fish is cured in curing solution or brine. Then another type of fish products can be canned fish. In the market you can see there are so many canned fish available, like the canned salmon, canned tuna, canned sardines, and all these are stable at room temperature. Then another category is cooked fish, which we consume also at home. We cook by broiling, steaming, boiling, frying, baking, etc. There is another important fish products category that is based on surimi based products. So what is surimi? Surimi is washed, minced, frozen raw fish that serves as a basis for production of different types of fish products like fish sausage, fish balls, fish cake, fish nuggets, fish fingers, cutlets, flakes, kamaboko, etc. There is another type of fish product is fermented fish. This is very popular in India, especially in the northeastern region of the country. So there are fermented fish products available which are named as shidol, hentak, nari, etc. We can also produce some of the processed fish products like fish flour, fish soup powder, fish noodles, fish wafers, fish kebab and tundri and quick frozen steams. So now we'll move on to the egg part. Basics, we'll try to learn the basics of the egg. If you want to know the chemical composition, the nutritive value and the different quality parameters for grading of the eggs, you must have the idea of the structure of the egg. So when you see egg, so from outside appearance you can see the egg is made of some minerals. There is an outer covering is made of minerals that is known as eggshell, that can be of white or brown in color depending on the species of the birds we are getting the eggs from. So outermost part is the eggshell. Just beneath that shell there are two thin layers of shell membrane. So the outer shell membrane and inner shell membrane. And if you see the bottom part, that is the broad end of the egg, there is a space between these two layers of cell membrane, inner membrane and outer membrane. So that space is called as air cell. This is very important because during the storage period the size of the cell air cell increases, and that indicates the deterioration of the quality of the egg. So inside that shell membrane there is the egg white, which is also known as albumin. There are two layers. Outer layer is thin egg white or thin albumin, inner layer is the thick albumin, and the center position you can see the yolk, that is yellow in color, and that is like exactly like a cell or means nucleus of any cell. Egg is also a cell, so it's definitely had that outer membrane covering that is known as white line membrane. It also has the germinal disc in the center. So this is the structure. From here you can see the major components of shell egg. The egg is mainly composed of shell, yolk and albumin. Shell is 10%, yolk is 28%, albumin is 62%. If you see the composition of egg, it also varies with the species of the birds. Here we will see the composition of the hen's egg. Hen's egg contains 73 to 74% of water, 12 to 13% of protein, 11 to 12% of fat, 0.8% minerals and very less quantity 1% carbohydrates. Egg also contains vitamins and pigments. So the color of the yolk, whether it is yellow or white, that depends on the pigments present in the egg yolk, and pigments present in yolk are mainly carotenoid in nature. So these are keratin and xanthophyll. So you know the composition, so you can guess the nutritive quality of egg. So from 100 grams of hen's egg we can have 130 kilocalorie of energy. You know egg is very rich in essential amino acids and it provides good quality proteins. To name few proteins like ovalbumin, ovotransferrin, ovomucin, lysozyme, avidin, etc. And some of these bioactive proteins function as immunoprotective and antimicrobial in nature. Egg also contains saturated fatty acids, monounsaturated fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids. The common fatty acids which are present in egg are like palmitic acid, oleic acid, myristic acid, stearic acids. Egg yolk also contains cholesterol. If you see the vitamin content of egg, you will see that egg are rich in all the fat soluble vitamins. To name that vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E. It also contains vitamin B complex like the thiamine, riboflavin, biotin, choline, pantothenic acid, niacin, etc. Egg is also a good source of minerals, mainly the calcium, phosphorus and potassium. Because of its high quality protein, egg is used as standard for measuring the quality of other food proteins. So the biological value of egg is considered as 100. And the Indian Council for Medical Research, that is ICMR, has recommended for us 180 eggs per head per year. So you know, egg is of highly nutritive quality, but when we buy egg, we should check the quality of the egg. Even for processors also, who are processing, who are selling the eggs, they also need to know the quality of the egg. When you go to market, what do you see? We see the egg from the outer surface. That means we check whether it is appearance is attractive or not, whether the shell is in good form, in good shape, whether the size of the egg is good or not, large enough or not. So we decide the price also depending on the size of the egg, whether the shell condition, like the color, what is the color, whether it is dirty or it is clean, whether the shape is normal, whether the texture is smooth or rough, whether it is having any cracks or it is without any cracks. So these are the external quality parameters which we can check by observing the egg from the outside. But what's about the internal quality parameters? So internal quality parameters are like the size and position of the air cell. As I mentioned that during the storage period, with the age of the egg, the size of the air cell increases. So it indicates the internal quality. You can also check the amount and height of the thick albumin, the color and standing up quality of yolk, and you can also check some defects in eggs, for example, meat spot, blood spot, etc. So how can we check this internal quality parameters? There is a very simple technique which is known as candling. So in candling, what happens? You can hold the egg in front of a bright light and you can rotate the egg through its long axis. You can check the internal qualities like the albumin, the yolk, the air space and the shell quality while we are doing the candling. So candling helps in grading of eggs. All these qualities are influenced by breeding, nutrition, housing, management of the birds and also the diseases, age of birds and the storage condition of the egg. So if we want to maintain this quality, the external internal quality of egg, then we have to follow some steps during the handling, processing and packaging of shell eggs. And it starts with the collection, that is the gathering and assembling of eggs from the poultry farm. Then it has to be cleaned and washed. We can use water, detergent, disinfectant at minimum 37 degrees centigrade and rinsed with slightly hotter water, and this cleaning and washing should be followed by drying. Next step, we can place the egg for candling and which helps in grading. As per the Indian grading system, eggs can have two different quality grades, namely A and B, and in each category in A and B there are four different weight grades that depends on the size of the eggs, like the extra large which is more than 60 grams, then the small which is below the 42 gram size, and in between there are two more categories, one is large and medium. So if we want to keep the egg for a long time, we should go for preservation. There are various types of preservation I will be discussing later on. The egg should be cooled to 10 to 15 degrees centigrade for 12 to 24 hours before packing and storage at proper temperature and humidity. An egg should be packaged in proper packaging materials. For example, you can use the egg cartons or filler flats which are made of paper pulp or plastic. In the market, shell egg is either used as table eggs or in the industry it can be converted into further processed egg products. In commercial plants, all these activities, the gathering, the cleaning, washing, candling, cooling, etc., all these, when these are done, eggs are not touched throughout the collection, cleaning or grading or packaging. So there is less chance of contamination with the microbes. If we cannot maintain the quality, if we cannot process, preserve or package the egg properly, then what will happen? What are the different types of deterioration or spoilage can happen to egg? Some of the changes are very natural during the storage periods. So you know, almost all egg contents are sterile at the time of production. Microbial contamination on cell surface comes from dust, fecal material and from used packaging materials. So there may be physicochemical changes during storage or can also be microbial spoilage. We'll see first the physicochemical changes. So there will be loss of water and carbon dioxide through the shell pores, and that will lead to this increase of the air cell size. and as there is loss of carbon dioxide, so the increase in pH of the yolk and albumin, that will go to the alkaline side. So there will be breakdown of proteins, then albumin becomes less viscous and spreads rapidly. When water passes from albumin to yolk, yolk becomes flat, vitelline becomes weak and breaks. Yolk contents migrate into albumin or get mixed with it, so egg becomes spoiled. And the microbial spoilage happens because of various microbes like the Pseudomonas, Achromobacter, Flavobacterium, Proteus, Acinetobacter, Cladosporium, Penicillium, etc., which penetrate through eggshell and membrane. These causes various egg rots like green rot, black rot, red rot, fungal rot. And besides this, microbial spoilage also produce off odors like the musty odor, RD odor, fishy odor, cabbage odor in eggs. Now we'll see how can we prevent this kind of deteriorative changes in shell egg through different preservation methods. Very common method is the cold storage. If we store the shell egg in the cold storage, for short-term storage like 2 to 3 weeks, eggs are stored at 15 degrees centigrade and relative humidity of 70 to 80%. And for long-term storage, for more than 6 months storage, we can go for storing at 0 degrees centigrade and the relative humidity of 80 to 90%. We can also seal the shell pores to prevent the entry of the microbes or loss of moisture or carbon dioxide. So that can be done by application of mineral oil coating, by application of lime sealing, lime solution, that is the calcium oxide solution for 16 to 18 hours. We can also apply some water glass solution, and you can go for thermostabilization, in which the eggs are immersed in hot water at 55 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes or 60 degrees centigrade for 3 to 5 minutes. Now we'll see what are the functional properties of egg that makes the egg very useful in different food industry. For example, egg can be used as binding agent. So it binds ingredients together and used in preparation of meatloaf, burgers, cookies, etc. Egg can also be used as leavening agent, for example, in preparation of sponge cakes, where the beaten eggs incorporate air which expands when heated. So that helps the baked goods rise and become fluffy. Egg can also be used as thickening agent, which thickens the mixtures by coagulating when heated. For example, preparation of custard, sauce, etc. Egg can also be used as emulsifying agent because egg yolks contain lecithin, which helps to stabilize the mixtures of oil and water. For example, preparation of mayonnaise. Egg can also be used as clarifying agent in the beverage industry, so it removes the extraneous materials from the beverages. It can be used as coating agent in the enveloped meat products preparation. Eggs can also be used as stabilizing agent. For example, albumin is used as stabilizer in ice cream preparation. Again, it can be used as coloring and flavoring agents for various food product preparation. Now we'll see the popular egg products. At the commercial level, the pasteurized and frozen egg products are produced. When the frozen whole eggs or white or yolks are produced, first the egg content is pasteurized at 60 degrees centigrade for 3.5 minutes and or 64.5 degrees centigrade for 2.5 minutes. Then the product is frozen. Before frozen, the whole egg and the yolk are treated with sodium chloride or sucrose to prevent the gelation of the yolk. Next category is the dried egg products, where the dried egg powders are prepared by spray drying or pan drying or fridge drying methods. And before drying, egg has to be desugarized. Glucose has to be removed from the egg to prevent the quality deterioration during drying of the eggs. So glucose is removed by microbial glucose oxidase. Another category of egg products is coagulated egg products. Very simple examples are like soft or hard-cooked eggs, deviled eggs, poached eggs, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, omelette, etc. There can be foam egg products like foam cake, soufflés, etc. Egg products can also be made based on its emulsifying property like the salad dressing or mayonnaise. We can also use egg for preparation of snack foods like egg rings where the egg albumin is used. Egg can also be used for preparation of egg beverages like eggnog, which consists of eggs, milk, sugar and flavorings. We can also make egg pickle. There is another type of egg which is not a processed product, but there is another group which is called as designer egg, which is unprocessed and fresh egg, where the content of the egg has been modified from the standard eggs as per the demand of the consumers. The health conscious consumers now demand for the eggs which have low cholesterol, high omega fatty acids, vitamins or mineral rich or antibiotic free or organic eggs, all these are known as the designer egg. So now it is a time for summarizing what we learned today. First, we saw that the production status of egg and fish in the world. India ranks third in fish and egg production in the world. Fish can be classified as fin fish and shellfish or bony fish and cartilaginous fish. Fish are a very good source of good quality proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals, especially rich in omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. We also learnt about the freshness indicators of fish. Then we learnt fish is highly perishable. Spoilage can occur due to autolytic, oxidative and microbial changes. Proper handling, immediate chilling, processing, preservation of fish can ensure wholesome and safe product. Fish can be preserved by various preservation methods like chilling, freezing, drying, salting, smoking, curing, canning, fermentation, etc. And you can prepare some of the popular fish products like fish sausage, nuggets, cutlets, balls, salted, dried fish, cured fish, smoked fish, canned fish, fermented fish, etc. Then we discussed about the basics of the egg, where we learned eggs are also good source of high quality proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and the biological value is very high, that is 100. Eggs are graded on the basis of exterior and interior quality parameters like shape and size of egg, size of air cell, condition of cell, albumin and yolk. Candling helps in quality check and grading of eggs. Then we learned that during storage, egg goes through physical, chemical and microbial changes. But eggs can be preserved by mineral oil coating, cold storage, lime sealing, water glass treatment or thermostabilization. Eggs can act as binding agent, coating, thickening, emulsifying, clarifying agent in various food processing. And the popular egg products are cooked products, fried, poached, scrambled, pickled eggs, frozen egg solids, dried egg powder, cake, souffle, eggnog, etc. So this is all about the basics of fish and egg. I hope this session helped you to learn the basics and you will be able to answer the questions which will be shared with you at the end of this week. So thank you for watching this video and I wish you happy learning.